Well, hey fans, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Spoilers, and today we're talking spoilers for Secret Invasion. So first off, we'd like to thank our sponsor for this video, Flip Frog Books. Flip Frog Books is a Black-owned book publisher based in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. They've released children's books such as The Bacon Tree, I Don't Want a Pet, and Ned's Fanciful Webs. If you wish to purchase a book, the link is in the description below. Jump into a good story with Flip Frog Books. Now, Secret Invasion is a Marvel TV show that I have been waiting for a long time. The comic run, the event that spanned across multiple comics, was very well done. It talks about how this entire, well, not the entire time, but for a long time, Skrulls have been infiltrating human society on Earth. They've replaced like politicians, celebrities, superheroes, and I think it starts when Spider-Woman is killed and her body shifts into a Skrull, and they realize, okay, Skrulls are here. Who else are Skrulls? We don't know. So, finding out that Marvel was going to adapt this, I was intrigued. I'm like, I want to see this. Now, me personally, I thought this should have been a movie. This should have been your first Avengers movie coming out of, the aftermath of Endgame. When you get your new Avengers, you got all these new people, they don't know who to trust. It should have been Avengers Secret Invasion, and that would have tied up, the Captain Marvel situation from before Endgame. She would have been one of the leaders along with Captain America. You got Shang-Chi. All these new members who would have found out, like, who was a Skrull. And a key person to have been a Skrull, because it's one of your old guys who's been around for a while, would have been Rhodey. Watching the trailers and having them talk about how it's going to have the vibes of Captain America the Winter Soldier is going to be a smaller scale story. They wanted to tell it as a miniseries instead of a movie. I started to believe them, and I was like, yeah, this could probably work. And I remember Disney sent out the first two episodes. Watching them, I thought it was great. I was like, this is it. This show is going to be amazing. It's going to be another win for Marvel. And then as each new episode came out every week, I got less and less enthusiastic about it. And in the end, I just think the show was not that great, and it's a disappointment. I believe in my review, I gave it a poor 2.9 out of 5, and it is very disappointing for a show that costs like $212 million, I think, to make such a poor quality film. And just basically get into the plot. So after the events of Captain Marvel, Nick Fury got with Talos and a few other Skrulls, and he's like, Captain Marvel and I are searching the cosmos, looking for a new home for you guys. And in the meantime, those of you who are here on Earth, if you could use your Skrull shapeshifting ability to help me out, that would be great. And the Skrulls are like, yeah, this is a good guy. We're happy to help him. So they basically become like his Black Ops team, taking the form of all these people around the Earth and feeding him intel. And it's that intel that allowed him to climb the ranks of S.H.I.E.L.D. to end up becoming like the top guy. So I love that aspect of it. That is a great story, and it basically adds to the mythos of why Nick Fury knew so much and how he got around. And the fact that he knew Skrulls existed, and he was still keeping these secrets even after Thor showed up. Like in the first Avengers, he says, why are you developing all these weapons? Like, because of him. When Thor showed up, we knew that there were aliens. That was a lie. He knew there were aliens before Thor. And that's just a great level of the secrecy, the compartmentalization that Nick Fury has had this entire time. He's not truthful with anyone. Even when you think he's telling the truth, he's not, and that's what allows him to win. So during this time, this is set in the 90s, he meets a young Skrull named Gravik. He is brought to him, and they say, yeah, both of his parents were murdered by the Kree. He was able to steal a ship and escape. This guy has seen combat on his own. And this young Skrull, as a kid, goes to work for Nick Fury. And many years later, post-Endgame, Nick Fury is now on Saber, the space station that we saw at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home. And, the Skrulls are still on Earth. They have not been given what they were promised, a new home out in the cosmos. Which makes no sense. With as many barren planets as there are in the cosmos, the fact that we know that the High Evolutionary can just make a planet and populate it with people, it just doesn't make sense that they never found a home. I think that was just a dumb plotline. But the fact that they didn't have a home, they're getting a little upset. Fury promised them all these things, and they're like, you know what? Fuck it. Earth is going to be our home. So a small faction of Skrulls get together and they're like, we're going to replace people and we're going to cause all the humans to go to war, kill each other off. We're not affected by the nuclear radiation, and we're just going to make Earth new Skrullos. And the leader of this contention is Gravik, who worked closely with Fury. And, Talos is ousted. His wife was killed off screen, which I think is silly. The last time we see his wife is in the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, where she's pretending to be Maria Hill and he's pretending to be Nick. That's the last time we see her. Now, in between that moment and now, she got killed by one of Gravik's men, which, by the way, his daughter Gaia is working for Gravik because she's also like, I want a home. I don't want to be stuck on Earth pretending to be human. So there were a lot of things that they introduced early on. Some of them not great. Some of it was actually pretty great, but I don't think it stuck the landing. So basically, Nick Fury's coming down to take care of this mess, to stop Gravik from wreaking war on the entire planet and blaming on everybody else. Now, Kingsley Ben-Adir is a fantastic actor, and choosing him to play Gravik was phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. I thought for a few episodes he was the highlight of the series. I remember watching the first 2 episodes, he was giving off Killmonger vibes, because one of the things people love about Killmonger is the reason he was doing what he was doing, yes, it was wrong, but it made sense. You understood why he was doing it. Gravik was giving off those same vibes. It's like he did all this stuff for Fury since he was a child. He thought that promise was going to come true. It never came true, and it doesn't seem like Fury even cares anymore. That's why I'm doing this. I'm tired of hiding. I want to be in my own skin. They talk about that a lot, being in their own skin, being able to be Skrulls. But the way that the series is made is kind of lost. But so that's the plot, and Nick Fury comes down to stop him. Another great character in this series is Olivia Colman. She was wonderful. She plays Sonya Fallsworth. She's like a high-ranking MI6 agent. She's basically like the British version of Nick Fury. Very good. She was a very unique aspect to this show. And judging by the ending, it looks like Gaia's going to be working with her because the Skrulls have actually taken over a lot more people than they thought. So it'll be interesting to see if they do bring this back for a season 2 or if this comes into like another movie. So basically the 2 Skrulls that we see in the series are Rhodey. He has been a Skrull. We don't know exactly for how long. They try to make you think it was since Civil War, but that doesn't really make sense, and I'll get into that. And Everett Ross. So Everett Ross is a little tricky. We know Everett Ross was not a Skrull in Black Panther because he got injured and almost died. He did not revert back to his Skrull form. So most likely Everett Ross became a Skrull after the events of Black Panther. So it would have been a great reveal for them to say that Everett Ross was a Skrull during Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but we don't know that. I think that would have been a great reveal. And then like after, Okoye breaks him out and he went to go work for Fury, it would have been nice. But we don't know how long Everett Ross was a Skrull. For Don Cheadle, I think it makes sense that he became a Skrull after Endgame. And the way we know this is in Captain America Civil War, Rhodey gets his spinal injury that weakens his legs. It partially paralyzes him so he can't walk. So Tony invents that apparatus for him that, allows his legs to be powered so he can walk normally. Now, Rhodey wears that apparatus in Infinity War. He wears it in Endgame, but he no longer wears it in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And me personally, when I saw that, I was like, oh, so he's just healed. I mean, Tony invented all this nanotechnology. It would make sense that he's healed by now, or there's some kind of smaller thing. But I think that it was after Endgame, but before Falcon and Winter Soldier, that he was taken because he now has a higher ranking position in the government. I think he's at the Secretary of Defense now, which used to be General Ross's position. And, he's going to become president now because Dermot Mulroney's character, he was President Ritson, that whole message he gave at the end, fears like that's going to make you a one-term president. You're adding all this fear to people. Overall, like I said, the show has this whole espionage feel, but I don't feel like it goes anywhere. The absence of Captain Marvel also was a big issue to me. She played a major part in supposedly finding them a new home, but they don't really even mention her that much. She's not even called. If like Fury called her and said, "We need you on Earth," and she's like, "I'm busy," that would have made a little more sense. Like, she's working on stuff. She can't be there. She's still trying to find them a planet. That would have been great. Another person that should have been in this show was Monica Rambeau. Monica Rambeau and Gaia, they met as children and they were like becoming friendly. So it would have been great if like she was like the one that taught Gaia back. Like, I know we haven't seen each other in years, but you know, I miss you. I miss us hanging out. You know, we're gonna find you a home. I'm gonna help now. She would have been a great person to add to the show, and that would have tied to WandaVision and like the Marvels even more. Like, she should have been in this show. There's just a lot of things that a lot more characters that should have appeared, which is why again this should have been a movie, because also Monica Rambeau would have been great as a new member of the Avengers. But moving on, so like I said, Gravik's plan was that, you know, he's going to cause all humans to go to war. It's going to be nuclear holocaust, but Skrulls unaffected, so they will take over the planet, make it their own. Part of the thing that will make them better, because Skrulls are naturally stronger than humans, naturally, you know, more long-lived than humans. I think Talos himself said he was like 260, but he still looks like he's a 50-year-old human, which is pretty awesome. But, you know, they can still be, if you shoot a Skrull in the head or shoot them with enough bullets, they will still die, if that makes sense. They are not immortal. They are stronger than humans, but yeah, a bullet can still kill them. A knife can still kill them if you cut them enough times. So Gravik's like, we need to be super Skrulls. So he has the scientists invent this machine for them that basically takes the DNA of people, adds it to their DNA, and they gain their abilities. So he had Extremis put into the machine, so Gravik now has Extremis. Whenever he's cut or slashed, he heals with like the red heat. He had Groot's DNA put in the machine, so now he can create, you know, the wooden tendrils that stretch out. They also mentioned the Frost Giant's DNA's in there, but we don't really see him do any like ice abilities. They don't show that until like the very end. Also, they have, I can't remember the guy from Avengers Infinity War and Endgame who got his arm cut off by Wong. They had his DNA, so they put in there, so that would give him, you know, super strength. So that's supposed to mimic the Super Skrull from the comics, who has the abilities of all four members of the Fantastic Four. So the Extremis will give you the Johnny Storm fire. The member of Thanos' guard will give you the strength of the Thing. Groot's abilities will give you Miss Fantastic stretchiness. They didn't have anybody who was invisible, so they put the ice in there, I guess, just to create like a fourth one. Doesn't really make sense. They could have said, we have Ghost DNA, because she was a part of Hydra. They should definitely have her DNA, and that would have given you the invisibility. Of course, they get her DNA later somehow, but that, I think, would have made it super cool. And they should have showed him using all those abilities at once. We kind of rarely see him use them. He uses them when his hand is cut in half. We see him like stretch his arm. But it's like they didn't want to blow the budget, so they never really show him using them all at once in some kind of like cool fighting scene. And I think that would have been an interesting workaround if they had actually, you know, stuck to it. But unfortunately, they did not. But this culminates in Gravik saying, I want to get the harvest. So after the events of Avengers Endgame, there was like that big battle between past Thanos, his army, and all the Avengers and all these other people across the galaxy. When they were cleaning up, Fury sent the Skrulls in to collect all the DNA they could find. Every little bit of DNA they could find, and they harvested it in like this vial. And I guess Fury's plan was, if something ever went wrong, if the Avengers ever went rogue or anything, it's like his plan B, we could clone more Avengers, I guess, or make more powers, or something like that. So Gravik wants that so he can get the powers of everybody there. So, long story short, Gravik eventually does get this. He gets this ability to get all the powers. And all the names on the screen: Thor, Valkyrie, Black Panther, Hulk, Abomination, Thanos, Proxima Midnight, Ghost, Captain America. Literally everybody who you've seen in the MCU, their DNA was somehow in this machine. The end of the show, Gravik, you know, gets it. He gets all these powers, and he thinks he's talking to a dying Nick Fury, but he's actually talking to Gaia, who's pretending to be Nick Fury, so she also gets the powers. And put a pin in that, because I'm going to get to their fight. Because of this moment, Gravik and Nick never really have any. They talk on the phone a little bit, and he sees him during that attack against President Ritson, but they don't really have like a lot of like contact with each other. Like, we know like he looked up to Fury, and he started working for him when he was young, and he did all these things, and Fury was his hero, but we don't get enough. There should have been more flashbacks of him and a young Gravik, of Gravik looking up to this guy, of being out thing. And the thing is, Nick Fury marries a Skrull. He falls in love with the Skrull girl. They get married. They live the life. She's pretending to be this doctor who died of cancer. She said she'd take over her life and love her parents for her and all this jazz. That's another great part of the story. I really like that. And because it's the same Skrull who brought him Gravik, the one that he ends up marrying. But that's it. Like, if we were shown that Fury raised Gravik, if, like, Gravik was, like, his legit, like, basically adopting, like, this is his son. If Gravik is his son, he's been working for him for all these years, that would have been a wonderful turn. Like, basically, Nick Fury has to kill his own son. Some kid he's grown to love all these years, and he's let down. And you get, like, the whole Anakin, Obi-Wan thing. Like, I failed you, Gravik. Something like that. That would have been a lot better, but they barely have any contact. So we don't care when he betrays Fury, when he talks bad about Fury, because we don't get any of that. Even though I liked Gravik in the first episodes, they kind of take away from his seriousness. But in the end, both Gravik and Gaia get these abilities, and they become super duper Skrulls. They're no longer super Skrulls. They have all the powers, legit all the powers. And it looks so goofy, the way they're like summoning all these powers and have instant control over them. Like, she can already do Mantis's sleep thing. But here's the kicker. When they get these powers, they look exactly like the people who had them. So when Gaia gets Drax's arm, it's like Drax's arm on her body. When she gets the Hulk's ability, it's like Hulk's legs on her body. It's not like a female version of the Hulk or a female version of Drax. Like, the Drax arm even has Drax's brands, you know, which aren't native to his species. He got those put on him. So I think, and a lot of people are upset about that, I can kind of give that a pass, because Skrulls can turn into people exactly how they are. They can mimic clothing, tattoos, whatever they need to. So I think those brands and the size difference, they're trying to show that in her DNA, since she has his DNA and her DNA now, she can completely match him. It's not going to be just some female version. So it's fine. It just looks weird. I think they should have just went with a feminine version or a masculine version. So Gaia and Gravik are having this big old superhero fight, using all their powers, blasting each other, punching each other, kicking in, using telekinesis, whatever they have at their disposal. They're having this big fight. And at the very end, Gaia grabs Gravik by the neck and shoots like a Captain Marvel beam through his stomach. And that's the end of the fight. He dies after that. Even though he has all these different healing abilities from different heroes and villains, a blast through the stomach kills him. Not a blast through the head, which would have made sense. If his brain is gone, he can't use his abilities, he's dead. But no, just a regular old blast through the stomach. Extremis isn't healing that. Any of the, healing abilities he got from Captain America or Spider-Man or Thanos or any of that, because we saw Thanos get stabbed in the chest and he survived. So it just didn't really make sense for that to be the end of the fight, and I really just hated it so much. So here's another thing I did not like about the show. Throughout the whole thing, the Skrulls are tired of being on Earth. They're tired of having to hide the fact that they're Skrulls. They want to be in their own skin. So when they go to like that deserted compound where they all live, they're all still in human form. Rarely do you just see them walking around being Skrulls. Gravik, for the most part of the show, he's in human form. Like, if they want to be in their own skin, I think we should have seen more green people. We don't really see a lot of green people unless it's to reveal, ooh, so-and-so is really a Skrull. Like, if they're not around humans, they should be in Skrull form. That's what makes more sense to me. And two things about that. Okay, during the final fight, when they do their whole big punch out, Gravik, he reverts to his normal Skrull form. He's like, I have the powers, I have no need to be a human anymore. Gaia does not. Gaia stays human looking through the whole fight. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, and she's one of the people who's always preaching throughout the show about, you got to be in your own skin. You got to be proud to be a Skrull. That's why I originally turned on my dad. Like, it made no sense that she was still in human form. I was just so baffled by the decision to do that. And here's another thing. We've seen She-Hulk. We've seen Thor: Love and Thunder. We know that the Asgardians have made a place on Earth for themselves. Tonsberg, they've turned it into New Asgard. And not only are there Asgardians there are a lot of different alien species just like living there, living a normal life. Some of them are traveling around the world. Like, there's that shape-shifting elf who went to court. So why are the Skrulls still hiding? Why don't the Skrulls just go to New Asgard and live there? And that way they can be in their own skin. I know it's still not New Skrullos. They're still waiting for Fury to deliver their promise. But I don't understand why all the Skrulls haven't migrated there and are, taking a part of that community. Because those are also extraterrestrials who are living on Earth. And that just deals with the whole disconnected sense of phases 4 and 5. Kevin Feige was stretched thin, I get it, but you can only fall back on that excuse so many times. They should have gotten everybody together in one big room. What are you doing for your movie? What are you doing for your movie? What are you doing for your show? What are you doing for your show? Just had like a nice retreat and say, well, I'm doing this, so you might want to connect to this way and that way, and we can all be on the same page. And you like the issue with the fact that the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness writers didn't even read the scripts for WandaVision or even watch the show. They just kind of got the gist of it, which is why there's that bit disconnect with Wanda between those two. And I think the same goes for this show. And it's supposed to lead into the Marvels, but because they mentioned like, oh, there's this peace summit we have to do, and Captain Marvel's going to be able to help. And that's it. That's it. And apparently Fury's wife, who is present throughout this show, she's not in the Marvels because the Marvels was filmed before this show. They need to get her on a screen or something, or say she's on a mission. It's just a lot of things that they did that I think were just messy and sad, and with all these great actors and like a lot of the writing, there's some good dialogue throughout this show, but overall, like the episode's like 30 minutes. It's you don't get to build out this world. You got great characters like Sonya Fallsworth. You got Don Cheadle and Nick Fury having these great conversations, great black conversations at that, about the power that they have being black people. And it ties back to the fact that, they have to act a certain way when they're these higher ups, just like the Skrulls have to act a certain way. There's good writing in here, but it just didn't all gel together as a fantastic show. And by the end of it, I was like, yes, this should have been a movie. This should have been Avengers Secret Invasion. This should have been the first Avengers film out the gate, where you got the new team together, and the fact that they don't know if they can trust each other, that's what brings them together. Now on to my next topic before I wrap this up. The people who I feel like should have been in this, that should have been Skrulls, and this goes back to how everything should have been tied together. You have Sharon Carter, who shows up in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and she's also like the big secret bad at the end. She's the power broker. She's now acting a little more evil, and she gets on the phone to some unknown party saying, yeah, I'm back. I can get you access to all this. She should have been a Skrull. That would make sense for her change in personality if she were a Skrull and she were talking to Gravik to get him more, technology. If she were the one who got him Extremis and all the original DNA, that would have connected to that show. The girl from the CIA, Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, she should have been a Skrull. She even has that purple streak in her hair that would have made sense that she was a Skrull, and that even like her husband didn't know it. She would have been a great candidate to be a Skrull. People like Jimmy Woo. Jimmy Woo would have been a great candidate to be a Skrull. People who've been around. You can have your major people like your Rhodeys and your Everett Rosses. Those are major people to be a Skrull. But you trickle it down to people who we've seen throughout the MCU, and you're wondering, like, when did they turn? When were they turned? People who we've gotten to know. It would have been great if they made this more than just a post-Endgame thing. If it was really and truly a, since like the early 2000s, the Skrulls have been plotting this. And Talos didn't even know. So because it was a weird thing from the beginning for in Captain Marvel for them to make the Skrulls, misunderstood good guys. Like, and the comics are evil. And then it's like they're trying to backtrack and now make them evil. Where, if they say, not all Skrulls are good, we're like any other people, that would have been great. It actually takes me back to one of the best lines that Nick Fury says in the show, and this is out of order, but I don't care, where he's like, you have 1 million Skrulls on this planet, and you expect people to accept you? We can't even accept each other. And that was a great line, although in the context of the show, it did not really play well. But yeah, overall, those are my thoughts on the series. Sadly, I think by the end of it, this is my least favorite Marvel series, and I think a lot of the Marvel series have really not been great. I think the writing has been poor. The episodes have been too short. After, you got WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and Loki. Those are the 3 best, and I think that because they were the earliest ones. But everyone after that, they've kind of started strong but ended weak. I think they need to go back to the drawing board and, just revamp all these shows. I hope Daredevil, Born Again, and anything else coming out like Wonder Man just is better done and better tied in to the greater universe than these one-off stories that nobody cares about. Oh, and don't forget, the special presentations have been great. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special and Werewolf by Night. Those are fantastic. And maybe some of these shows should have been that. But, we'll see. But that will do it for me, guys. Remember, you can read the review and watch this spoiler talk on the website, flipfrogllc.com/flixfrog. Remember, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit. And please, pretty please, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, anything and everything Flipfrog Books, Flixfrog. Make sure that you subscribe. My next Let's Talk Spoilers is going to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I'm super excited for that series, or movie I should say. So, until next time, I'll be seeing you.